Hi there, you lovely people. Welcome to the Holy Shed, which, for the first time in a while, has got the pitter patter of rain on the roof. It's good to have you here. Thank you for joining me for the last Holy Shed before Christmas. And just to say, in case you're wondering, that there will actually be a Holy Shedlet on Christmas Day itself. Such commitment, I know. Uh, Most of you, of course, will have other things to do on that day, but some of you may just appreciate a little something for Christmas from the Holy Shed. And of course, it'll be there afterwards when you're all fed up of and filled up with Christmas food and trifle and being nice to each other and all the rest of it. And you're ready for something else to chew upon. Now, I say that this is the last Holy Shed before Christmas, which it is, properly speaking, but actually there is a soul space on Tuesday from the shed, which this week is, a very special one. Let me show you a little picture, actually. Looking at the theme of rumours of glory, and this is kind of, a slightly alternative way of looking at the true essence and meaning of Christmas. And if you've never been to a soul space before, I'm pretty sure you'll love it. I mean, you can ask for your money back afterwards, even though you're not paying, if you don't enjoy it, but I'm pretty sure you will. It's, just under an hour of music videos and film clips, stories of people, lovely images, poems, a bit of yakety yak from me, all rolled up around this theme of an alternative view of Christmas. And, this would be a pretty good time to visit for the first time if you've never done so before. Take a bit of a break from all the madness of the week before Christmas, and it will be great to have you. Now, throughout Advent in the Holy Shed, we have been thinking about hope as a central Advent theme. And now, in this final Sunday of Advent, of course, we're staying with that topic. Now, it's not by coincidence that in the Northern Hemisphere, where Christianity was born and nurtured, that it was decided by the Church to celebrate Advent and Christmas in the midst of winter. I mean, basically, the Church yet again baptized existing pagan feasts because they were very popular as much as anything else. Why? Because from the very beginning of human history, we have needed ways to navigate our way through this, the darkest and coldest season of the year. Today we take comfort from central heating if we can possibly afford it, and maybe, some Strictly Come Dancing or whatever else is your favourite TV show or whatever to get us through the darker months. But our ancestors gathered around fires, took their fill of food and drink, which were carefully stored for the winter months, sang cheerful songs, and, incanted the sun to return to fill the leaden skies as soon as possible. So little wonder, as I say, that early Christians chose this time of year to rekindle hope in Advent and celebrate the birth of Jesus, the light of the world. And, this marriage of Christianity and paganism, which I've talked about before in the shed, is something that I think has been a very enriching thing for the Christian faith, even though it hasn't really much been appreciated as such. However, it's not just, physical winter that creates darkness for us. There are also wintry times of loss or despair or mourning or disappointment, which are universal to human experience. And these too require that we discover some, blessed hope to lift our gaze. One of my great heroes, in the Christian world is the diarist Etty Hillesum, a young Dutch Jewish woman who worked in Amsterdam during World War II. Her diaries record an inner journey that she went on of spiritual awakening. It's gripping reading, I find. Basically, she found the meaning to life for her in serving Jewish refugees in a Nazi transit camp on the edge of Holland, next stop Auschwitz. And while there, she cared for her fellow inmates, bringing comfort and calm and looking after their needs. Week after week, she witnessed trainloads of Jews being carried away. And then finally it was her turn too. And along with her family, Etty was flung into that great nightmare of the death camps, transported to Poland on November the 30th, 1943, aged just 29. And somehow, as I think I mentioned a couple of weeks ago, somehow Etty managed to scribble a postcard and throw it from the death train into the fields round about, which a farmer found miraculously and mailed to the address that she'd written on it. The card simply read, "We left the camp singing." My goodness, we left the camp singing. And I think that card stands really as one of the saddest and most defiant avowals of hope from the entirety of the Second World War. Earlier in her diary, Etty had written this. She said, "Ultimately, what matters is to bear the pain, to cope with it, and," she said, "to keep a small corner of one's soul unsullied, come what may." Amazing, to keep a small corner of one's soul unsullied, come what may. We have to take everything that comes, she said, the bad and the good. But this doesn't mean that we cannot devote our life to curing the bad. We must reject all barbarism within ourselves, she said, never fan the hatred within, the fan of hatred within, because if we do, the world will not be able to pull itself 1 inch further out of the mire. It's a very moving, but also very uplifting read. Hope springs eternal, we say, but it doesn't simply happen by itself. Hope must be kindled, fed, and fanned until it becomes the defiant force that really can pull our world out of the mire, which I believe it can. At its core, beyond all the tinsel and fairies, Christmas is really a statement of defiant hope, and we should never, ever forget that. And we need that hope today, I think. We thought we needed it through the pandemic, but maybe even more we need it today with, Putin's determination to destroy the Ukraine, the energy crisis, the economic hardship that many people are feeling, and goodness knows, the climate emergency. We need hope right now more than ever. But as we've been saying in the shed these past weeks, hope isn't a flighty, passive emotion, a nice sentiment, wishful thinking. No, hope is a commitment to defiance, a commitment to reimagining, but also a commitment to action. Martin Luther King said, "Out of the mountain of despair, a stone of hope, a rock upon which a new future can be built." Sharon Brous is another amazing Jewish rabbi who I admire so much. Based in California, where she is the senior rabbi of IKAR, IKAR, a Jewish congregation in Los Angeles, Sharon absolutely represents the kind of faith and values and theology in her Jewish tradition that we are all about here in the Holy Shed. She is a progressive spiritual leader who has been listed, among other things, as one of America's most influential rabbis. So a really remarkable woman. In the autumn of 2016, after the election of Donald Trump as president, a moment of, great trauma for progressively minded people everywhere, and especially there in America, she says the morning after the election, her kids ran into their parents' bedroom and the whole family wept together. But she told her kids this. She said, "There's a lot of callousness and cruelty out there. From this point forward, our home is an oasis of love and justice. We give each other the benefit of the doubt. We listen to one another. We lead with love. We go out into the world today being exactly who we've always been, but better, more compassionate, more generous, more awake, because that's what it will take to build a more just and loving world." She later wrote, I think rather wonderfully, Hope is not naive, and hope is not an opiate. Hope may be the single greatest act of defiance against a politics of pessimism and against a culture of despair. Wow, 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 wow. I love that. And, this is where the Jewish ethic of tikkun olam comes in. Now, if you haven't heard those words before, tikkun olam, Tikkun, tikkun olam, O-L-A-M. I've mentioned it before in the shed. It's mostly translated from the Hebrew as repair the world. And it's an idea that arose from Jewish mysticism, known as the Kabbalah. And here's the thing, by the way, I find it's in the mystical elements which exist in all faith traditions that we find the greatest synergy. Doctrines and beliefs, they have their place, but they tend to divide, while the mystical and the experiential tend to unite. Anyway, during the 16th century, in the Galilean village of Safat, Rabbi Isaac Luria, the founding figure actually of Kabbalah, Rabbi Isaac Luria observed that the world had many things wrong. There was hunger, war, disease, and hatred. Gosh, sounds like today, doesn't it? How could God allow such things? People wondered, as people wonder about that still today. Luria responded, perhaps it's because God needs our help. And he explained his answer with a little mystical legend, which goes like this. When the world was first made, God planned to pour light into everything to make it real and alive. But something something went wrong. The light in the legend was so bright, in fact, that the vessels containing it burst, shattering into millions of broken pieces. And our world is such a mess because it's filled with broken fragments that need bringing together. When people fight and hurt each other, they allow the world to stay shattered. Luria said, we live in a cosmic heap of broken pieces, and God can't fix it alone. And so we can choose, he was saying. We can allow things to remain broken, or we can join with God in repairing them. Now, whether we call that tikkun olam, as Rabbi Luria did, or the kingdom of God, or Christ-inspired humanism, as I like to say, our task basically remains the same, to live hopefully in the world by sharing in a co-responsibility with God and each other to bring healing and wholeness to repair the world. And the wonderful emphasis in tikkun olam is that we go about repairing the world by gathering the fragments. In other words, we do it one little step at a time. And that's something every single one of us can do, can be a part of, even in the smallest of actions or gestures. This last week at the checkout in Lidl, we were behind a woman who was slowly, getting all the sort of coins out of her purse and laying them out along the conveyor. Now, I wanted to get home, and frankly, I was irritated by this silly little game that this woman appeared to be playing until I realised, dagger in the heart, that she was checking whether she had collected too many items for the amount of money that she had in her purse. And, painfully, she set a couple of items apart, including a tray of chicken thighs. She didn't have enough money to buy them. Well, as our stuff started to pass through, I could see that the lady who'd left the till area was finishing packing just out there along the aisle, and I just felt so sad about my irritation, and I knew that I would not be able to live with myself for the rest of that day and maybe longer if I didn't do something about the situation. So I grabbed the tray and asked the checkout person to check it through for us. And heck, it wasn't much. It was a few quid, which I could afford. Um, but the joy on the woman's face when I gave it to her, the surprise and the joy was just overwhelming. And her, God bless you, Happy Christmas, will certainly be the season's best greetings that I will get this year. I'm not telling you that to say I'm some great person. I'm just saying this was how it was. I was annoyed with my irritation. And I suppose, I know all about it. I've seen it on the television. I know that people are making those kind of choices. But to actually be there in that space and see a dear woman going through the process of making that choice hit me right where it hurts. And, it's simply to say, really, that little opportunities for a spot of tukun alarm or whatever are basically everywhere in our world right now, even at a supermarket checkout. I guess one Christian way of talking about tikkun olam is good works, which is actually a much maligned thing rather, in evangelical circles. I find I'm often told, "Oh, you're preaching a gospel of good works," but you know what? It's deeply scriptural. Show me your faith, James says, and I'll show you my faith by my works. Peter, in the book of Acts, describes Jesus as a man who went about doing good. He went about doing good works. And I often say, I don't think that we are saved by good works. That's not what I'm saying. People talk about salvation of good. I'm not saying, because actually my whole notion of saved doesn't equate with the way a lot of people talk about it anyway. I think that doing good works is what a saved life looks like, rather than being lost to egotism and selfishness and consumerism and all the other things that are there to suck us in. Look, I'm hoping for great things in the new year. An end to war in Ukraine, tick, umpteen other places where there are conflicts going on too. I am hoping for the survival of people and families struggling through the winter months. I'm hoping for more wages for nurses and carers especially. But the way I'm determined to nurture hope in myself and others is not by just sitting back and passively hoping, but through actions, hopeful actions, even small acts of goodness and compassion that we all face the possibility of in some way or other most days of our life. Listen to the words of Rabbi Sharon once again as she spoke to her family in the face of the great disappointment that they had when Donald Trump won the election. She said, "From this point forward, our home is an oasis of love and justice. We give each other the benefit of the doubt. We listen to one another. We lead with love. We go out into the world today being exactly who we've always been, but better, more compassionate, more generous, more awake, because that's what it will take to build a more just and loving world." That is hopeful living, guys. That's what it's like. The single greatest response we have to a culture of despair is hope. Defiant imagination expressed through acts, simple little acts maybe, of goodness. Rabbi Sharon makes reference to a verse in Zechariah 9:12. Don't know when you last read Zechariah. Not me, not lately for me. But Zechariah 9:12 says the Hebrew people were prisoners to hope. Well, I'll tell you what, I'm taking some of that. I want to be captive to hope. How about you? That's saying that we have no choice. It's built into our psyche, let alone our faith. It's the only sane or psychologically healthy way to live. Hopefully, we're locked into, I want to be locked into, the spiritual mindset of hope, because we might otherwise abandon it for the oft times more alluring, more enticing, more seductive alternative of resignation and despair. Well, I'm not going to have that. How about you? I'm not responding to the tempting offer of despair. I want to stay very securely imprisoned with hope. Etty Hillison affirms this in her diary. She says, yes, we carry everything within us. Everything is within us. Everything we need, she says, is within us. We don't have to look for hope outside, on the TV, from politicians. No. We have everything we need within us. The birth of Christ is, more than anything else, I think, the incarnation of hope, constantly waiting to appear within even the darkest night. We are constantly bringing to birth hope. We are pregnant with hope, if only we can recognize it. So as I say, hope isn't something out there, over there. It's within me. It's within you, dear friend. It isn't simply found in a birth 2,000 years ago. Hope is waiting to be born in us today. And, birth is never an easy thing. It's a painful, sometimes quite drawn out affair. But in the end, there's a child. Hope awaits us, even in the darkest night. So let's have a prayer. Repairing the world, such an awesomely impossible thing. Who am I to make a difference? I know sometimes, for sure, I'm more a part of the problem than the solution. Yet I remain a prisoner to hope, and even in my worst moments, I long to be part of that vision, harbinger of a better way. What does it take to build, I wonder, a more just and loving place where all can live together peaceably? How can we finally comprehend the intrinsic union deep in our belly with all people, all creatures, the very planet that birthed and sustains us, though we scourge it daily? Dear God, may our spirits recouple with that primal destiny to which we were called, in gathering the precious fragments of a broken world, shards of divinity, waiting to shine everywhere, in all. Tikkun Olam. Amen. Well, I think it's time for a little drink, isn't it? So if you have one handy, I ask you to join me now. And I've got quite a lot of different whiskey glasses, partly because some of you people give them to me, which is rather like this one, which has got a little hat on it. Do you like that? It keeps the aroma in, I'm told. I think sometimes for me it doesn't get a chance to be held in, I'm afraid. So, very, very simply, this is a toast to hope this Christmas and for 2023. A toast to Tikkun Olam, healing and repairing the world. May we all be part of this awesome holy task. To life, L'chaim. Very nice. So hey, if you like what I'm doing here and you want to support us, you can buy us a coffee or two, and we're so grateful to all those of you who do this, but who support us in lots of other ways too. If you want to buy us a coffee, you just follow the link which is on the screen. It's also always at the top of the posts on the Holy Shed Facebook page. And as I say, thank you so much for doing that. And if you want to pursue this theme of hope more in a more intimate way with me, a hope for a better world, for a more progressive faith, then you can do that over the weekend of the 27th to 29th of January at Amadown Retreat Centre in Somerset, and you can go to their website and find details about it, and I'd love to have you join with me. Do remember that I will be issuing a little shedlet on Christmas Day, which I hope you can join me for then or in one of the days thereafter. And I'm just going to leave you with a video which I've shown you before. Make no apologies for it whatsoever. It's about the Charter for Compassion that Karen Armstrong created, and it's become a whole movement of wanting to restore compassion to the heart of religious and moral life. And these words that you're going to hear now spoken by an array of different people are exactly the words of that Charter for Compassion. And I've signed up to it. I hope you will. Have a great time this coming week and over Christmas, and I'll see you soon. All the best. Bye-bye.
The principle of compassion lies at the heart of all religious, ethical, and spiritual traditions,
calling us always to treat all others as we wish to be treated ourselves.
Compassion impels us to work tirelessly to alleviate the suffering of our fellow creatures.
To dethrone ourselves from the center of our world and put another there.
To honor the inviolable sanctity of every single human being.
Treating everybody without exception.
With absolute justice, equity, and respect.
It is also necessary in both public and private life.
To refrain consistently and empathically from inflicting pain.
To act or speak violently out of spite, chauvinism, or self-interest.
To impoverish, exploit, or deny basic rights to anybody.
And to incite hatred by denigrating others, even our enemies.
Is a denial of our common humanity.
We acknowledge that we have failed to live compassionately.
And that some have even increased the sum of human misery in the name of religion.
We therefore call upon all men and women
to restore compassion
to the center of morality and religion.
To return to the ancient principle
that any interpretation of Scripture
that breeds violence,
hatred,
or disdain
is illegitimate.
To ensure that youth are given accurate and respectful information
about other traditions, religions, and cultures.
To encourage a positive appreciation
of cultural and religious diversity.
To cultivate
an informed empathy
with the suffering of all human beings,
even those
regarded as enemies.
We urgently need to make compassion a clear, luminous, and dynamic force in our polarized world.
Rooted in a principled determination to transcend selfishness.
Compassion can break down political, dogmatic, ideological, and religious boundaries.
Born of our deep interdependence, compassion is essential for human relationships and to a fulfilled humanity.
It is the path to enlightenment and indispensable in the creation of a just economy and a peaceful global community.
Now that is a creed that I can sign up to.